Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding out you can only buy gas on certain days. Long lines at gas stations, fuel shortages, rising panic, people waiting hours just to fill their tank. And for many Americans, this sounds impossible, but it already happened once before. During the gas crises of the 1970s, gas shortages changed everyday life across the country. And today, with rising global tensions, inflation, supply chain problems, and energy instability, people are wondering, can it happen again? Peace, this is the Modest Prepper, where we make your halal pantry easy. Now, the gas crisis of the 1970s, it didn't happen overnight. It started with global conflict and oil supply disruptions. Now, I particularly wasn't born during that time, but I've heard stories. And when I looked it up, in 1973, several Middle Eastern oil-producing countries reduced its oil exports to the United States. And America depended heavily on foreign oil at that time. So when the supplies dropped, prices skyrocketed. Gas stations, it began to run out of fuel. Panic buying made everything worse. Drivers rushed to fill up their tanks even when they didn't need gas immediately. And suddenly, everyday Americans found themselves in a crisis many people never imagined possible. Long lines stretched for blocks, tempers exploded, some gas stations completely shut down, and others limited how much gas drivers could buy. So there was some kind of A-B system that I learned, where one of the most shocking parts of the crisis was the way they rationed the gas. And in some areas, drivers were only allowed to buy gas on certain days. So with people only able to fill up every other day, you had others waited in line for hours only to discover the gas station had already run out. Now imagine how frustrating that would feel today, because we're traveling so much more and so many people have cars. Where back then it may have been one car per household. Now you have 2, 3, sometimes 4 cars per household. Millions of people depend on driving to work, picking up their children, buying groceries, and surviving financially. And the gas crisis, it didn't just affect transportation, it affected the entire economy. Because you had people who had high heating bills. And when I saw the report, it said with gasoline, the availability of heating oil, it took a hit during the energy crisis. So many homeowners, they responded by lowering their thermostats, adding more insulation. In many cases, wood stoves became very popular. In addition, they had trucker strikes because truckers were so frustrated by the speed limit, the high gas prices, that there were actually demonstrations across the country. And there was like 100,000 layoffs. It just, from reports, it got really nasty. And for those of us who don't realize, anything we purchase today, it comes off of a truck. Anything we get, whether it's food, clothes, every furniture, whatever, everything that gets delivered to us involves a trucker. So we definitely need to thank our truckers and realize that this crisis that's going on with gas and it's constantly increased, it affects us all. So why are people comparing it to today? Today, many people see certain similarities that make them a little uneasy. With the rising global conflicts, once again, supply chain disruptions, inflation, economic uncertainty, you have energy dependence. And while today's situation is different in many ways, one thing remains the same. Modern society is still heavily dependent on fuel. Gas, it affects almost everything. The food transportation, emergency services, shipping, work commutes, delivery systems. And when fuel rises sharply, everything else, it becomes more expensive too. And some experts, they warn that global instability can create sudden energy problems very quickly. And history has shown that panic often spreads faster than the actual shortage itself. The fear of running out sometimes create even bigger problems. So what should we learn from history? The biggest lesson from the 1970s gas crisis is not fear, it's preparation. Many people assume systems will always function normally until they don't. A small preparation today can reduce panic tomorrow. Things like keeping your vehicle maintained, avoiding unnecessary driving, having emergency savings, planning alternate transportation, keeping your gas tank from getting too low. Because a mechanic did once tell me that once your gas gets below a half a tank, your engine have to work that much harder so it burns faster. I didn't really look it up, but I figured he was a mechanic, so he had to be telling the truth. But also reducing unnecessary dependence. This can all make a major difference during unstable times. In history, it teaches us that crises often expose weaknesses people ignored during comfortable times. And sometimes, small disruptions can affect millions of lives very quickly. There was an article, or not an article, but a statement that AutoZone made. And you see it here on the screen where they talked about the incoming things that will affect us. And one of the things they said is the lack of lubricating fluids. So when I think of lubricating fluids, I think of oil, brake fuel, coolant, anything that you, of course, got to put in your car. And that may be something that we might want to think about stocking up in addition to what we're already stocking up. And I know people think, it's so frustrating just thinking about having to get this, having to get that when everything is going up. But don't overwhelm yourself. Just get a little at a time. You go to the store, you go past AutoZone, get one bottle of oil, put it to the side. Next check, get an extra bottle. Don't have so much pressure on yourself where you're constantly thinking about it in short-term goals. Just make it in long-term and just get it little by little, and you'll be surprised over time how much you can build up. So the gas crises of the 1970s, it felt unbelievable to many people until it happened. Long lines, rationing, panic, stress, and while nobody knows exactly what the future holds, history reminds us that modern systems, they're not invincible. The question is not whether fear helps. It doesn't. The real question is, are people becoming too dependent on systems that they assume will never fail? Because preparation is not panic. Preparation is wisdom. If fuel shortages happen again, do you think society will handle it better or worse than the 1970s? I'm going to say probably worse, because we have so many modern conveniences that to not have it today, I really think it will affect us and it will affect our children a lot. So let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Put it in the comments below what you think about this video and what can help us in the future as well, especially if you have any tips. So signing out as always, this is the Modest Prepper reminding you to take care, stay grateful, and prep with intention.